I'm the Goldschmidt Professor here at the school, Belgian Professor for Corporate Governance, and I'm also the Executive Director of ECGI. And it's my pleasure and honor to introduce this evening's session. I'll be quite brief, but I want to talk about three things. First of all, I'll tell you a little bit about, shortly about ECGI, then about the link with the school, and then a little bit about the Wallenberg foundations which have given their name to the lecture, that's an annual lecture, and the link with ECGI. I'm then going to turn to I'm then going to give the floor to Luc Lallemand, who is the CEO of the Helios Foundation, that has decarbonisation as its mission, and he will say a few words about the foundation, and then I'll turn over to the really noted Swedish Ambassador to Belgium, and she will provide a Swedish perspective, and given that we are in some sense benefiting from Sweden having named at least one of its main families having named its name to the lecture. And then we actually turn to Marcin Kacperczyk, who will deliver the Wallenberg lecture. So ECGI.
Oh, that's much better. Okay. So let me say a few words about ECGI. So ECGI is a global research network, and you can see the map here, which has as its mission statement, leading research with global impact. So it was actually started, it has its roots in Italy, but it was started here at the school in 2002 at the launch of the Goldschmidt Chair, and it was felt that the subject had become so important that not only should there be a chair at the school, but we should also launch an institute, and it grew from being a European thing to actually now being a global network of researchers. And if you're interested, you can look at ECGI Global about what kind of research these researchers produce. Now, what the researchers do went through waves, and has been topics have obviously included hedge fund activism, hostile takeovers, that was the traditional path. Then increasingly ESG and in particular climate took a major stage. I don't want to give you a lecture about those things. And then of course, since the Trump administration coming in fully into force at the beginning of this year, we must remember it's the beginning of this year, things of course look very different, and in fact, middle of November, together with Guntram, we are organising an event, or Guntram will participate in an event about corporate governance and the new industrial policy, which is of course a topic we would have not thought about last year, with the US government actually acquiring stakes in companies, and the US government going into corporate governance, acquiring golden shares and all these kind of things. So it's a little bit the world upside down as we used to know it last year. And of course, the attitude to climate of the Trump administration is very wrong. Network of members, we also have universities as members who support actually what we do, so it is a global network. Now, let me turn to the Wallenberg Foundations. So the Wallenberg Foundations is a very special corporate governance arrangement. It is also economically very important in Sweden and beyond. You can read an article about the family in The Economist of last week with photos. I don't have a photo. This is a corporate governance lecture. What is really fascinating to me about the Wallenberg Group is its unique arrangement. The origin actually, as you can read in The Economist, lies in a bank, SEB, which then took equity stakes in companies that went bankrupt. So debt equity conversion, Matthias knows about debt equity conversions, so they took controlling stakes in these. That's very similar to German banks that had industrial participations. But then what the Wallenbergs did is they said, no, actually we don't keep this in the bank. We set up a holding company called Investor, which is listed on the stock exchange, and also they didn't sell the companies. Like, you remember maybe a Belgian, very famous Belgian entrepreneur who did similar things. he sold everything. No, they didn't sell. They actually kept stakes in these companies. That's the portfolio companies of Investor. And then it's not the family controlling directly, I think partly because of tax reasons. They actually put the shares into foundations, the Wallenberg foundations, and it's the Wallenberg foundations that control Investor today. So what's really interesting about them is that the foundation is actually one of the largest science funders in Sweden, so there's a scientific angle to it, and one family member is responsible for the spending, and two cousins are responsible for the portfolio, and they actually deal with the portfolio companies that include very well-known names like ABE, Atlas Copco, Ericsson, and so forth. Really an impressive set of companies, and they deal with the governance piece of it. So it is really a unique group, and I think, and the ambassador I'm sure will have something to say, it is pretty much also a model maybe for others, because Sweden then of course combines this with trade unions that have board representation, with pension funds that provide capital, with the government that has a special role, and so forth. Anyway, now the Wallenberg family has been supporting ECGI from the outset because they feel that it's A, science, and B, it's about corporate governance, and corporate governance is really something that they feel very strongly about. So they have been extremely supportive from the very beginning, and then we decided, I think 4 years ago, to convert the annual ECGI lecture into the Wallenberg lecture, and we kicked that off in 2020 very, very, very cleverly, and it moved online, and we kicked it off with Oliver Hart, who gave the first Wallenberg lecture online. So I'll introduce Marcin in a second and what he's talking about. I just simply like to turn the floor now to Luc Lallemand. Actually, Bernard Canier was the chairman of the Helios Foundation, was supposed to be here today. He sends his apologies, he's at home with COVID. It still exists. And Luc is going to step in now and say a few words about the Helios Foundation. Thank you, Luc.
Thank you very much, Marco. Ladies and gentlemen, at first I have to apologize, Bernard, who is sick, as you said. Okay, thank you. So Bernard de Canier and Dirk Bormans and myself are very proud to present you Helios Foundation, a new foundation that we created in April 24. Essentially, Helios Foundation is focused on the phenomenon of the global burnout. The global burnout has two phases. On the one hand, the burnout of the planet. This is the first mission of the foundation. And it is the decarbonization of the Belgian economy. On the other hand, the human burnout. This is the second mission of Helios Foundation, improving the mental well-being at work. The climate change and the mental health are situated in the top of the challenges of Belgium, but also of Europe, for a future of prosperity. Helios Foundation wants to act as a catalyst to address them by funding and fostering innovative and holistic solutions. This is the reason why we gave support to this magnificent ECGI conference this evening. Even if this evening is dedicated to intellectual elevation, the aim of Helios Foundation is to act, and to act now, through strategic collaboration with academia, industry leaders, policymakers, and social partners. The first value of Helios Foundation is impact. Up to now, we invested massively in research programs, support to startups and scale-ups through funds and philanthropy. One of the most interesting work that we finalized concerning decarbonization is a roadmap for the decarbonization of the Belgian economy. This study was realized by Bain & Company, and we put it in open source on our website. You can download it by scanning the QR code that you see at the moment. This is a way on how to eliminate 110 million tons of CO2 in Belgium to realize the net zero carbon neutrality in 2050. Last but not least, it will be a great pleasure to listen to the several speakers, and I wish you a great moment of full inspiration and energy to change the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luc. Ambassador, can I please invite you up? So I'm very honored and pleased to introduce to you Johanna Brismar Skoog, the Swedish Ambassador to Belgium. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Marco. This has been it's an honor to be here tonight. Thank you to Luc and to Marco for previous speakers. I had something else prepared, but you took half of it, I think, so I will change a little bit. But you may not be aware, but Sweden just reopened its embassy here after 14 years of absence, and based on a government decision from... Is this too much echo? It's okay, because here it's a lot of echo. Yeah, good. And I think the motivation was that in times like these, difficult times with the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, etc., and the world in turmoil, the government felt that we need to keep our friends closer and our allies close to us. So that's why we see that as an ally in NATO, as in the EU, as an important bilateral partner, Sweden and Belgium need to work much, much closer together. And we do have a long bilateral history too. We have the royal family, of course. We have a thriving trade, and we have a very strong cultural exchange, as I noticed here this last couple of months. I've been here 2 months and 6 days this time. I'm very impressed also by the collaboration that I've seen between Swedish and Belgian partners at all levels since I came back here. It's really something where it's not comparable to what I served before in Indonesia and Brazil, where we had to look for partnerships, but here they keep appearing. And tonight's lecture, I think, is an example of that. We have the Wallenberg Foundation, I guess, supporting such an important annual event as the lecture here at Solvay Business School. I'm particularly happy about the context. This is one of my first public events since I came into this position. And so I'm particularly happy about the subject of today's lecture, which is a combination of research, innovation, and climate and green transition, and how to put that back together. I think these are areas, these are cornerstones of Sweden's economic development, and areas where we are quite proud of ourselves, I think with good reason. And we have a long history of research and research-based innovation, and more than 3% of the Swedish GDP goes to research and development. It's a mix of private and public funding, and as you pointed out, the Wallenberg Foundations is the single largest private donor. They're consistent in their donations. It's around 220 million a year, and it goes to everything from particularly STEM subjects, but also to the humanities and social science. It goes to basic research, which I think is also a foundation for our innovative capacity. And just to brag a little bit, we are This year, European Commission ranked Stockholm as the most innovative region in Europe. More unicorns per capita than London, New York, and Los Angeles. And last year, we ranked second in Europe in the number of patent applications per million inhabitants after Switzerland, which is very innovative. Underestimate or overestimate the importance of the Wallenberg Foundation and the Wallenberg family and their business model for Sweden's economic development. It's been this long-term strategic responsible corporate governance has influenced business behavior in Sweden. Both the model is older, but the way other owners also treat their assets and the way they think, I think is very much influenced by the way that the Wallenberg family has managed their influence. And they have a very important role going forward too. Tonight's lecture, I was scheduled to coincide with the International Advisory Board meeting, but it also marks the opening of the high-level segment of COP30 in Brazil, and where we are supposed to reach new conclusions, way forward on the Paris Agreement. Personally, I think this might be the most important issue that we will have to deal with in the future, or for the future. And it is also a very complicated task. We saw, was it yesterday, that the European leaders finally agreed after long negotiations on a position to bring forward to Belém in Brazil. It's also a task where we need to come together, all actors, governments at all levels, academia, which you see here tonight, the responsible business has a very important role in this, and of course as individuals. And in Sweden, we have combined government policy with private initiatives and given the private sector a clear role in this. We had a combination of sticks and carrots with voluntary commitments. And we have an initiative called Fossil Free Sweden, which is basically government at different levels, municipalities, companies, sectors, industry sectors, and deciding on concrete targets, identifying obstacles and opportunities, and seeing how can we in this sector, be it the road transport, be it agriculture, be it whatever, different kinds of manufacturing, how can we in our sector move together towards the Paris Agreement goals? And what can we do? And what are the obstacles? How can we raise these obstacles to government so government can handle them? To have the credibility and the support from the population, from the normal general public, we need to have good measures. We need to know what we're doing. We need to prove that this is efficient. And that's why the science-based approach is so important. I'm really looking forward to today and to see what your conclusions are and how we can do this together. Because I think this is, where Sweden has a role, where Belgium has a role, foundations like the Helios Foundation has a clear role, and partnerships and collaboration is the only way to do this. So thank you very much. Spoken far too long without my notes, but yes, thanks.
Thank you very much, Ambassador.